It's always fun to have a little music to start with, just to fill in the first part because sometimes we get cut off. So I want to make sure we have a good entrance into our program today. But welcome to Centered Live with real conversations about what grounds us, lifts us, and helps us live with purposey, clarity, and compassion. That's our goal here at Centered Live. Now, you'll notice my co host, Paul Malloy, isn't here. He's taken a few weeks off, and I'm pleased to have my son, Aaron Burgoyne, join me. So, Aaron, welcome.
Thank you.
And just to introduce Aaron, he has over a decade of experience as a forensic accountant. He is an investigative accountant at the state of Utah. He's a certified public accountant, certified fraud examiner, and also adjunct professor at Utah Valley University. He's also my favorite oldest son. Well,
Yes, that's true.
I have two sons. I have a favorite younger son, but you're not the favorite younger son.
I'm not. No.
So today we're going to talk about skepticism, and in particularly professional skepticism, and why that it matters more than ever in today's world. So let me explain. Several episodes ago, we talked about having a healthy view of the world and not being coerced or to believe something right away. And we talked about or mentioned professional skepticism, and we thought that was a wide enough topic we could have a whole episode on it. So professional skepticism is a mindset of critical thinking and questioning where one does not accept information at face value, but instead seeks reliable evidence before forming conclusions. It involves being alert to inconsistencies, assessing the credibility of sources, and making decisions based on facts, not assumptions or emotions. So, with that, tell me, what is professional skepticism in what you do, in your professional definition?
Yeah, so professional skepticism is something that we've learned about since pretty much day one in accounting courses. A lot of people who study accounting go into auditing or taxes, or in my case, forensics. But all of them use, we rely on documentation to kind of back up or support the opinions that we're giving. So an auditor, when they're trying to find out what, find the supporting documentation for financial statements, if they say that they have an equipment that's worth this much, they need to be able to say, okay, where's the document for that?
Mhm.
Where's the actual piece of equipment? They can't just take their word for it that it exists, but they need to actually go in and prove it. And so with various professions use professional skepticism, but it's just basically not taking something at face value, and looking a little bit deeper and maybe having a questioning mind of what you hear before coming to your own conclusion.
Yeah, and I remember some years ago, there was a famous investor, very well-to-do, very well respected. His name is Bernie Madoff, and I think it's ironic that his name is Madoff because he made off with millions of dollars.
Yeah, love the name.
Throughout his career, he had gained some kind of reputation and built friendships with people in high places, including the SEC.
He was the chairman of the SEC for a while.
Oh, was he? Yeah. So he knew people, and when he told people that this was good and we're following the rules, they believed him. The auditors just kind of skipped over a few things and let him go, but he was really building one of the largest pyramid schemes. And is this something that you studied in your accounting classes?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of times in our accounting classes, actually, we talk about these fraud cases, but we actually don't go into them. This is
Hmm.
one of them. But since I am a fraud investigator, I have kind of done a little bit more research into it. What's funny about Bernie Madoff is, so he had been going for a long time. I want to say early '90s, until he was actually found out in 2008. So this is going for a very long time, and in about a decade before he was found out, there was a forensic accountant, Harry Markopoulos, I think was his name. I've got his book over here somewhere, and he took one look at his stuff and was like, "No, this guy's fraudulent." And so he wrote it up. He sent it to the SEC, and the SEC is like, "No, no, not Bernie Madoff. He's got such a huge reputation." It's like, "No, we're not going to do that." And Harry went back again and again to the SEC, and the SEC even consulted with Bernie Madoff on his own case to find out if.
Oh dear.
And so, the SEC could have been more professionally skeptical at that time.
Yeah, I remember in 2008, I was working for a financial services company. I was more of in an IT or a technical role, but we all had to do the fraud training, right? Just because we're in the, and we used to joke that they're teaching us how to commit fraud by
Hmm.
by learning how people do it, and that was one of the examples that we studied was Bernie Madoff. So
Yeah, my professor who did the fraud class, she's like, "This is not a how-to course,"
yeah,
and I in turn say that to my students when I teach at Utah Valley University. This is not a how-to course.
yeah. So there are different sources that you need to go to for your evidence, for your documentation that you strength on. So not all evidence or not all sources are equal.
No, no, they're not. And I think people are better at this than they used to be. I think one of the benefits of people growing up in or having spending more time on the internet is they realize that there are um, more reputable websites than others or more reputable companies than others. And so, but as a whole, are we perfect? No, we still have to evaluate what those sources are. So there's primary sources, which are the best ones. Those are firsthand accounts, the people who know things based on firsthand account. And then there's secondary resources where they know things because they talked to people who know things.
Hmm.
Um, and
But how do you tell when a source is weak, but they really sound convincing? Like I'm sure Bernie Madoff did.
yeah, and so you'd have to. I mean, if you were to compare, let's say, periodicals or something, you know, um, if there's something that there's a magazine that has a large reputation, or a newspaper, or someone who makes articles, whoever makes articles, if they've got a long reputation of good content in it, then you can put more weight to them because they probably have a vetting process themselves, and so you can trust what they're saying because maybe it's gone through this vetting process. But if there's another company that might be less well known, and um, they maybe print a lot of retractions, or have to their articles contradict each other or things like
Mhm.
that, then probably don't put as much weight in those articles.
Right. Yeah, and I've seen some changes over the years. From my college days in the '80s when we in multimedia classes would study the news and how they'd go through a vetting process. And it seems like a lot of that has just been really lax. A lot of the big news agencies just don't do a good job of verifying their sources and sensationalize even the most little issue that comes up.
hmm One of the things you have to consider when you're considering whether how strong a source is, what is the motivation of the person that I'm hearing this from?
Yeah.
Are they doing it to get likes? Are they doing it to get views? Um, are they doing it to sell their newspaper or their magazine or whatever it is that they are they selling sensationalism or are
Mm.
they selling facts?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that goes a long ways with some of the social media stories that we see now. People want that shock value. Even in something, I follow a lot of tech people on social media, and they'll give you something shocking like stop using ChatGPT because, and then they go on to say, and they end up supporting it and using it anyway. So it's
Yeah.
just the shock value on I'm using it, but I shouldn't be. Why? And then you want to watch it and you get hooked. So
Yeah, so we need to be skeptical um, of those sources and think, okay, what are they actually selling here?
yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I mean, the sources, this on how strong the evidence is, it comes to play in the fraud investigations that I do. We're trying to figure out, well, for example, I've got one case that I'm doing in my private practice right now that there's an employer that has a former employee that he's been told, and there's a long story there, but he feels that she might have been stealing from him. And so, um, we've been finding, the first step, okay, what access did she have? Um, what time period did she have that access? When did it start? When did it stop? And so we can kind of narrow down the scope of this. Is there any other people that might be involved? Any collaboration with other people? And so as we've continued to get more and more documents, there's less and less. It's not pointing that direction um, so far. I
Mm,
mean, we're still looking, but we start with the low hanging fruit. Okay, what are the easiest places that she could have stolen? Okay, what are the next easiest, and what are the hardest? And maybe if she was really smart and really really savvy, maybe it could have gone to this limit. And so we're kind of taking those steps. And so even though the allegation or the complaint is, hey, I think my employee's been stealing from me, so far I haven't been able to prove it. And
yeah.
so I think one person might be like, oh well, yeah, of course she was stealing from her, and it was probably this much. But I can't say that without having seen evidence.
Right. And that's probably where you come in as the expert, is that you don't have those biases
hmm
or that familiarity with the person and can look at it objectively.
Yeah.
So you were telling me about a social media story that got kind of out of hand, a Tom Hanks rumor.
Oh well, not a real one, but
Oh, okay.
just as just as an example. So, you know, how to kind of this would be like just every day how you might be able to evaluate whether something is true or not that they might hear. So, Tom Hanks, everybody loves Tom Hanks. He's in some of the greatest movies. Um,
Hmm.
he's the voice of Woody, Forrest Gump. He is Walt Disney. I mean, he's one of the greatest actors of all time.
Right.
Um, so I think a lot of people would be shocked and appalled and click on a link if it said that Tom Hanks had died.
All right.
And I mean, that'd get my attention. I
Yeah.
think it'd get a lot of people's attention. So let's say there's this claim. This friend says, "Hey, did you hear that Tom Hanks died?"
Mm.
And so first of all, just think, okay, what are the possible alternatives here? Um, consider what the claim is. Okay, Tom Hanks died, or maybe it's true. Maybe he did die. Maybe it's just a rumor. rumors go around about.
Somebody with a similar name.
Yeah, it could be that it's just someone that has the same name that died, and it's not the actor. Um, so, so that's the first step. Just consider what the claim is and if there's any alternative theories. Next, take nothing at face value. That's the first step. It's don't just run with it. Say, okay, let me think about this for a second. Let's find out what other evidence there is. Maybe the friend that told you about this can show you a Facebook post about it. Okay, well, Facebook, it's definitely not a primary source. You could ask someone who's in the acting industry. Maybe they know him and can say whether he has passed away. Or you could check IMDb, which in my experience has been a reputable database of movie and celebrity facts.
Right.
And it tends to be fairly accurate. So, and that if Tom Hanks were to pass away, then they would definitely have a whole 15, 20-minute video on it.
More than one news agency would be on it. And
yes, exactly. So it's not going to be some podunk online newspaper is not going to be the first to hear about it. It's going to hit the Associated Press and everyone else all at once, and it will be all over the place.
Right.
So, so consider where you might expect to hear this information from. That's another one too.
Yeah, and I think it gets difficult too when you want something to be true.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe not necessarily the death of a famous person, but let's
sometimes
say
sometimes you want something gossipy to talk about.
Right. If it's getting boring at work, you want something to talk about. But
yeah.
But no, I'm thinking of somebody on Facebook coming up with this great nutraceutical that will cure cancer or make your hair grow in, right?
Yeah.
And so you want that to be true, and they call that a confirmation bias, where you believe it or you have this hope that it's true, and then you see something that says it is, and all of a sudden you latch onto it, and you might have some emotions that tie into it. You've had a bad example or a bad experience with some medical issue, and that would be a solution to you. But again, it could be a bad source because they align with your worldview doesn't necessarily mean that they're a good source.
Mm-hmm. Right. So once you consider what the other evidence is, consider what the stronger of the evidence is. We kind of talked about that. And then finally, make your conclusion based on what the evidence is, and not just on how you feel it should be, like you just said, or what the person had said. So, as far as I know, based on sources I've seen, the actor Tom Hanks is alive and well, and still making great movies, still voice acting, still being a dad and grandpa. I think he is. He's alive and well.
Yeah, good. So let's just look back on what we've talked about. So we talked about asking about what the source is, maybe even playing devil's advocate, saying, okay, what if this isn't true? How can I find out if this isn't an accurate claim? And then, of course, pausing before sharing anything shocking or emotional and taking that time to verify it yourself, rather than just jump on the bandwagon and share those posts that propagate the rumor.
Yeah, because that's how rumors spread so quickly, is people share the information before they verify it.
Yeah,
and that can be damaging. I think misinformation can be more damaging than the lack of information many times.
Yeah, and I think that in the early 2000s, before social media really got hold, people would send those kind of things via email. That you get these nice, cute little quotes, and it was like the junk facts of the 80s and 90s, where you'd get this random fax on your fax machine that was a joke from somebody, and they'd say, "Oh, that's funny," and they'd resend it to everybody on their fax list just for the fun of it. Um, but people did that with email, and now they're doing it with social media. So what's the next thing going to be?
I don't know. I think this is a lot faster than any of those. I mean, I think sending a junk fax must be kind of slow compared to one
Yeah,
click, and you can share it on all of your social media platforms and instantly get viewed by tens of thousands of people.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, misinformation has gotten a lot more efficient lately.
Well, good information is a lot more readily available.
Yeah, so all information, I guess,
Yeah, it's
is
somebody was asking me about what's the difference between AI and Google, just a web search rather. And I said, well, okay, if you walk into a library, the um, the card catalog is your web search. You can go and look up a topic or a book or whatever and find it, and it sends you to the source. Where AI is like the 80-year-old librarian that has read every single book and has photographic memory and can recall it. Now, is all the information in those books correct? Maybe, maybe not. So even AI, you have to be aware of what it is saying is based on human knowledge and still needs to have some confirmation. It needs to have sources. It needs to have evidence of what the AI is claiming. So, in fact, just today I was working on a project and had been working 3 or 4 hours on AI and discussing it with a coworker. And he says, "Well, where'd that number come from? Where's that? Where's the evidence behind that?" And I'm going, "Good question. Let's find out." And so I had to do a little research to find out where those numbers came from. And luckily, AI was able to give me the sources and we were able to verify it. But still, it's something that you need to verify.
yeah. So maybe I'll put you on the spot for a little bit. I just thought of these questions. So, can AI then be skeptical? Does it have the capability to weigh the different sources and decide, okay, this is a stronger fact than this one? I mean, it sees all the facts, whether good or not. And so,
Yeah, I think its ability to be professionally skeptical is good, but it's not perfect. I think that based on the information it has and how it's been trained, it can give you the best scenario for what it's got. Uh, but that's like asking any expert. They're
mhm.
going to give you information based on their knowledge, what information they've been given, and it may not always be 100% accurate. Um, so I think AI is getting better. I don't necessarily call it intelligence yet.
Mhm.
It's strictly really good at language and processing data, but it's not quite to the point where it is a independent thinker or able to produce independent information. Now, it may seem like it is because it has access to large, massive sources of data,
Mhm.
but and it can analyze it and come up with best case scenario. But it's not perfect, and I don't know that it ever will be. But it's going to get better.
Oh, that's fantastic.
All right. So, um, anything else you want to add from your line of work that you think is applicable as a kind of a takeaway to give our listeners?
Um, I mean, just don't take anything at face value. I know I've said that a few times, but pause before you share things. Consider what the sources are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one takeaway would be, you know, lack of information is better than misinformation. So it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this fact that I hear. I don't know if it's true. I hear that you said it, and I understand that you believe it's true,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it's true yet.
And that's hard times sometimes. If you're an expert in a field, you want to be right.
Hmm.
And just to say I don't know yet shows a strong level of, I think, maturity of accepting information that could be not true. So yeah. So some sources are better than others. You base conclusions on facts, not feelings. And yeah, this has been a great discussion, Aaron. I appreciate you coming on. And next week Aaron's going to be here also next week. And we're going to talk a little bit more about avoiding fraud in everyday life, since that's kind of your your expertise is avoiding or stopping fraud.
Hmm.
So you want to give us a teaser for what's going to happen next week?
Sure, I guess so. I mean, I've been collecting a lot of different fraud facts for quite a while, as I've taken classes and experienced cases as an expert. Um, we'll talk about investment fraud for sure, since that's what I do. Most of my work is dealing with investment fraud. So,
Mm,
how to avoid that, how to verify whether it's a good investment or not. Um, we can talk about. Oh man, I'm trying to think what else. Just generally about how not to be swindled.
yeah.
That there's romance scams, there's other kind of consumer scams out there, cryptocurrency, a lot of
Affinity
different.
based, where you know
What was
somebody.
that?
What do they call it? Affinity, where you know somebody or have them in a trusting environment.
There you go. Yep, affinity fraud. Lots of different aspects to fraud, because fraud is about relationships. Is really what it is. Their they're using their relationship to push to overcome any skepticism that they should have, the consumer should have. So
Right. Well, great. Appreciate you coming on. And just a call to action for everybody out there this week: try to track a few rumors or claims that you hear, and then pause and assess, investigate, decide based on evidence whether it's true or not, not just take it at face value, and start flexing your skepticism muscles, so to speak. So you get practice of being professionally skeptical. That is, that you don't want to display untrust or distrust in the person that's telling you that, but you want to be able to verify it so that it doesn't harm anybody. So be sure to like and subscribe. We love it when you share. And see you next week. And thank you, Aaron, for being on the show. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to next week.
okay, I'm looking forward.
All right, next week.